Howdy! Thanks for joining us on this week's episode of Gateway to the Smokies. This podcast is about America's most visited national park, the Great Smoky Mountains National Park and the surrounding towns. This area is filled with ancient natural beauty, deep storied history, and rich mountain cultures that we explore with weekly episodes. I'm Joseph Franklin McElroy, a man of the world, but also with deep roots in these mountains. My family has lived in the Great Smokies for over 200 years. My business is in travel, but my heart is in culture. In today's podcast, we're going to talk about a little mountain town called Canton, and also about mountain biking. But first, let's talk about our sponsor's message, in this case happens to be me. Imagine a place evocative of motor courts of the past, yet modern and vibrant with a chic Appalachian feel. A place for adventure and for relaxation. Imagine a place where you can fish in a mountain heritage trout stream, grill the catch on a fire, and eat accompanied by fine wine or craft beers. Imagine a place with old-time music and world cultural sounds. There is no other place like the Meadowlark Motel in Maggie Valley. Your Smoky Mountain adventure starts with where you stay. Another sponsor is Smokies Adventure. That's Smokies plural, adventure singular.com. The Smoky Mountains and surrounding area is a vacation destination for all seasons. Some of the nation's best hiking trails, motorcycle trails, waterfalls, outdoor adventures, and family entertainment can be found right here. Start your adventure by using smokiesadventure.com to explore all the wonderful features of the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. The trails, the waterfalls, Cade Cove, the elk, and more. Then check out all the family attractions and entertainment you and your entire family can enjoy in the area. The goal of Smokies Adventure is to become the leading information portal for adventures and experiences in the Great Smoky Mountains. There's an event coming up this weekend I wanted to let you know about. The Meadowlark, we have a heritage book series, and this one's going to be a presentation of the book, The Legendary Hunters of the Southern Highlands, a century of sport and survival in the Great Smokies. From the heyday of the Cherokee Nation and on through the 20th century, the Great Smokies have nurtured some of the most celebrated hunters in American history. Predicting changes in the weather and almost telepathically sensing animal behavior, these outdoorsmen were linked inextricably with the land that sustained them. Local author and general manager of the Meadowlark Smoky Mountain Heritage Center, Bob Plott, lovingly recalls the tales of those hunters, rife with characters like Honest John, the bear whose habit of killing only enough livestock to eat at one sitting granted him a reputation as at once chivalrous and menacing. And Little George Plott, a legendary marksman turned World War II hero that linger among the region's hardwood forests and misty foothills. These tales do rediscover an era of self-sufficient mountain living where folks labored in logging camps, brewed moonshine, hunted for survival, and fought for what they believed in. It's April 9th, this Saturday at 4 p.m. at the Meadowlark Motel, and that'll be followed by a book signing, then a free barbecue for the guests, $10 for people that are not staying at the motel, and then music at the Meadowlark. So I hope to see you there. We're also next weekend, not this week, next weekend, we're having a fishing camp with some acclaimed fishing guides, including Charles Humphrey III, who is also a Grammy Award-winning musician. Call the motel for either one of these events, 828-926-1717, to get your place to be and stay this April. So we are pleased to have a leader of the community in Haywood County, and specifically Canton. His name is Zeb Smathers. He's a graduate of Duke University, hey Duke, and UNC Law School, who resides with his wife and son in Canton, North Carolina. He is a working attorney at Smathers and Smathers law firm in Canton, and he's also been the mayor of Canton since 2017, and he's been attracting national attention since then. Hello, Zeb, how are you doing?
Joseph, great to be here with you.
Oh, it is. I know that you've been suffering some we were just talking about how suffering some hard weather down there. Hopefully the wind doesn't kick up like it's been doing.
Yeah, as I said, anytime it rains in Canton since the floods of August of 2021, every time it rains, I just get this bad. My spider sense goes off. But
yeah, right. It's like oh. Well, since that happened, I look at the creek behind the Meadowlark, and it hasn't escaped its banks in 40 years. My dad actually raised the ground about 3 foot all over the place. But Maggie's been lucky. I think the big thing is we had it used to be bare mountains around there from logging, and now it's all grown up. And I think that changed the trajectory of the wash down, and Maggie doesn't get flooding anymore. So I guess we're lucky in that regard. But I think we're excited. I'm very excited. We're going to talk a little bit about the Chestnut Mountain Park that you folks are working on, and we're going to talk about the floods. But as a fellow Haywood County native and Duke grad, I'd like your visitors to get to know you better, and then and a little bit about you. So you were born and raised in Haywood County, right? I know your name. You have to be.
Yeah. My son, my 2-year-old son, he actually is the 9th generation Smathers.
Really?
I tell people, I was lucky to find a girl I wasn't related to marry here in Haywood County, and but no, I was born in 1982. My dad is an attorney. My grandfather owned one of the first modern supermarkets in Western North Carolina. And, I have memories of the store in Canton in the late 80s, but I also remember the ones in the early 90s. And it was in so many regards, it was a normal childhood of doing many of the things you just, advertised at your motel. Just, walking these mountains and playing in the streams and playing sports. And the 90s was a fun time to grow up with the birth of the internet and just changes in movies and entertainment. But that was more nationally. Locally, we started watching the decline of Canton, and Canton is a paper mill town. And not, much like other towns across North Carolina and across the United States, these manufacturing towns, these furniture towns, textiles, once employed so many people and so many, jobs and just the center of culture, they started closing up. And we're very close to losing our paper mill. Canton is a paper mill currently. Evergreen Packaging owns the paper mill here, employs 1,200 people. But in our downtown, you started noticing boarded up buildings and buildings falling down, and just not just, boarded up windows, but people's spirits were broken. And there was an understanding, like so many places in the United States, our best days were behind us, that there was simply no place for small towns, especially small manufacturing towns in the 21st century. And so I graduated Pisgah High School in 2001, played football and basketball there. Your visitors, the people listening, Canton and Haywood County is home to the greatest football rivalry in high school in the state of North Carolina.
And I happen to be on the other side of that equation. I went to Tuscola.
Well, no one's perfect, Joseph. But we love we're Pisgah and Waynesville's Tuscola, and that game draws anywhere from 13 to 15,000 people. And so, after 2001, I traveled 4 hours away to Durham to Duke University. Graduated in 2005 with a major in political science, a minor in history. Then I traveled 9 miles the other direction to UNC to Chapel Hill to law school.
I don't know why you ever made that decision. I also went to Duke, so
best of both blues.
Right.
But after that, I returned home. I always wanted to come home and practice law with my father, and we have a general small town practice, a little bit of everything. But I ran for alderman, which is our city council, in 2013, because spending 7 years in the Triangle, Raleigh, Durham, Chapel Hill, I noticed something. I noticed these large metropolitan areas like Raleigh, like Durham, they were expanding. They were suffering the new economy, new people,
I remember back then they were going crazy and expanding. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I noticed this. And so when I returned home, Canton is 20 minutes from Asheville, an absolute wonderful city, so much culture and art and craft brewing. And it was in 2008, that's when the Obamas made several trips to Asheville. I think really put Asheville on the map. President Obama has his favorite barbecue place in Asheville.
12 Bones Monkey, or 12 Bones, 12 Bones, right? Yeah.
And so I had, I put all that together and I said, wait a second here. Something's getting ready to happen here. Asheville and Buncombe County, it's going to grow. It's going to expand. There's going to be increases in housing and, just logistic issues. And I said, if Canton, if we play our cards right, we can take advantage of this.
Yeah.
A lot of people looked at me crazy. Luckily enough, people voted for me who didn't think I was crazy. But, at that point, it was very important. The first business was to have people believe that there was a place for places like Canton in the 21st century.
And I think that's I think that's important. And we're going to talk a little bit about what some of the things you did to bring it back, which I think are really impressive. Some of the things I want to put a little bit more history into this, because I looked up a little bit about your background, the Smathers, and what didn't it? 5 Smathers brothers migrated from the Scotch Irish and Germanic Wales into Rowan County, and then ended up here in Dutch Cove in Haywood County, right?
I don't know what happened in Rowan County that they thought the best idea was to leave town quickly and head to at that point the frontier land. But I'm glad they did. But absolutely, we traveled here, 5 brothers. If you ever come across a Smathers that's not from Haywood County, they're lying to you. I think there is one Smathers family in Massachusetts which has no direct relation to us, but everybody else comes from this part of the woods. And there was a Smathers in Camelot. Senator George Smathers of Florida was very close to JFK. I've always been told the story. How these mountains are. I don't know if the stories are true. They make good legends. That he actually introduced Jackie O to JFK. And so
you might as well grab a legend if you can. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter in politics. It doesn't really matter whether it's true or not. It's getting the perception of it. Turns out that George Washington didn't actually step down a Cherry Creek, but he grabbed that story, or somebody did for him. So cool. Well, your family, like mine, has been in the county for 200 years, right? So there's a lot of history in Haywood County, and I like to talk about that. And when we come back, I want to touch a little bit on your immediate family history. Your father was a mayor, and then where Canton's grown from that.
Absolutely.
Are you a business owner? Do you want to be a business owner? Do you work with business owners? Hi, I'm Stephen Fry, your small and medium-sized business, or SMB guy, and I'm the host of the new show, Always Friday. While I love to have fun on my show, we take those Friday feelings of freedom and clarity to discuss popular topics on the minds of SMBs today. Please join me and my various special guests on Friday at 11 a.m. on talkradio.nyc.
Are you a conscious co-creator? Are you on a quest to raise your vibration and your consciousness? I'm Sam Leibowitz, your conscious consultant. And on my show, The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, we will touch upon all these topics and more. Listen live at our new time on Thursdays at 12 noon Eastern Time. That's The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, Thursdays, 12 noon on talkradio.nyc.
Are you on edge? Hey, we live in challenging, edgy times, so let's lean in. I'm Sandra Bargman, the host of The Edge of Every Day, which airs each Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time on talkradio.nyc. Tune in live with me and my friends and colleagues as we share stories and perspectives about pushing boundaries and exploring our rough edges. That's The Edge of Every Day on Mondays at 7 p.m. Eastern Time on talkradio.nyc.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC. Uplift, educate, empower.
Howdy, this is Joseph Franklin McElroy back with a Gateway to the Smokies podcast. And my guest is Zeb Smathers. So, Zeb, one of the things I try to do with this podcast, is there's a lot of great professional, brilliant people that come out of Haywood County. And we could easily get in talking to the ideas and accomplishments and plans and future. And that's all important, But, one of the things that is special about Haywood County is the community and family connections, right? There's a very connectedness to your past, even though you're thinking about the future, and and you, like me, grew up with long family ties there. My father was mayor of Maggie Valley. I don't know exactly when your father was mayor, but my father was an alderman for a long time, so they probably knew each other. Mm-hmm. Your dad was a lawyer and started a law firm that you're in, and then he served as mayor, and then he was an athlete at Pisgah and a Hall of Famer there, and he also went to Duke. So how does it like to have that connection to who you are?
Well, I think, being from Haywood County in this region, it's just truly part of your DNA. And, it's one of those things where no matter, and I have been blessed to travel the world and experience wonderful things, but you don't forget where you come from. And I think there's something special about being from Haywood County and being around the people and the communities and schools and churches. And what you see is what you get. And I'm very proud in Canton. We're a blue collar town, and what you see is what you get. And in a superficial society that is, so much of it is marketing and spin. When you come across places like Canton and the people of Canton, and you see, what's real, and you're just drawn to it because so much of it is, the rest of the world is just made up, and it's more look and feel like something else. But when you come across the real McCoy, you just feel it. And I think that in Haywood County, when someone says, "How are you?" Or if they're mad at you, they mean it. And I think that's sincere. But I think on a greater level is, part of the challenge, but I think we're doing it in Canton, very proud of it, is how do you bring in new people, new ideas, new money, new opportunity, but you don't change who you are. And that's,
I think that's you're hitting the nail on the head there. Is you don't change who you are, you be who you are. Look, I'm sitting here in the middle of New York City, and I decided to have a brand about my family home. The place was a Meadowlark Motel, and I decided to be authentic to that brand. And while I modernized it a slight bit, I'm wearing overalls. I wear them every day, right? My grandfather did, right? So, you have to be, there had to be some sort of leadership values that your father instilled in you. What do you think those were?
Well, I think it was, Dad, even at times, I think it sometimes worries me. He is a huge optimist. And sometimes I think he was a man before his time. A lot of the ideas that Dad had, I saw them come to fruition. He was, again, probably 10 years before his time, and he has these huge, large, big ideas. But when you're around people like that, again, going back to Kennedy, I'm a big believer in the New Frontier speech. The big ideas, the moonshots, part of this country and part of being in West North Carolina is not being afraid of the big idea, to set out on those big adventures. And we need some more of that in our American discussions in politics. And so Dad was always pushing. And when you're a son looking up to your father and you see him lean in to not being afraid and talking about those big ideas, even when they don't succeed, that gives you a belief and a confidence to push you to do the same. And I think that's part of what leadership is. It's not being afraid of the big idea, finding a way, working across partisan lines or whatever lines of divisions exist, and saying, yes, we can do this. And I think that's something that you find time and time again in the mountains and Smokies of Smoky Mountains of West North Carolina.
Well, I think that you've demonstrated the ability to actually tell people something that they don't want to hear, right? People. There might be a poll that says people want something, and instead of just going with it, you actually will educate people a little bit sometimes, all right? Because there's things that they don't know, right? And you provide that information and then allow them to make a decision. And a lot of times you'll find that decision comes around to what would be the right thing to do. And I think that the politicians who do that are the true leaders.
Well,
right?
and I do think there's an importance, especially these days, to listen, to be around people that you may not agree with, but ask, listen to why they feel that way. And if you do that, don't just push them away. I think that's part of our problem is that, well, this person's wrong, or I can't believe they believe this way, or vote this way. Listen to their story. Everyone has a unique story. I mean, it's part of this podcast and what you're trying to do. And if you do that, time and time again, you will find common ground that you may not agree on everything, but if you can find those common issues that you can push it forward, and it's amazing. You talk about New York City. New York City is just a bunch of little small towns, but very often a lot of energy.
A lot of little small towns.
But again, I think North Carolina especially, but also across the United States, even in these large cities, you can call them boroughs, is that if you understand small towns and where people, their past and what got them where they are, man, do you realize how many similarities. We may have different accents, we may have different barbecue sauces, but truly we have so many common denominators that link us. And if you can refocus the conversation, you can actually get things done.
Yeah, well, if you look at even, you talk about, you look at condo co-op boards, you look at historical societies that have a few hundred people and members, and you have a board. I mean, those are all like small towns being run with a board and a president, and they're all dealing with the same exact issues many, many times in the city. When I was doing that, I recognized the same issues my dad went through as a mayor of a small town. Hey, I'm in this historical society. I'm dealing with the same issues. Well, let's get back to Canton, and some things there. I like to talk about some of the special stuff, and we're going to get to it. But do not leave your father behind. The last thing is, I noticed that he helped lead the effort to create that Smathers Farmers and Public Market, which I think is a real cool thing in Canton. They have music there and all sorts of stuff.
Well, you really can't be a small town in the 21st century unless you have a brewery and a farmer's market.
There you go. And don't forget, you got to have a church too.
And a church. But we have a wonderful Bear Waters Brewing, and that was a huge success for us several years ago. They do a great job. But yet, again, one of those big ideas that, sometimes Dad just says, we're doing this, and he doesn't even give me time to add my input, as many fathers don't, to their students. But we have this wonderful farmers market that brings people together, music, beer, crafts. And again, it's in the parking lot of my grandfather's supermarket where our law office is now, that for so many years, was a gathering spot over the same things. It was stories, it was food. Again, a lot has changed since the 80s. But again, to have Smathers Market return in some regards and bring people together, for Dad and my uncle Mike Smathers and their kids and just all the ones that were connected to Smathers Market. But again, it makes my point valid where it's different, but it's something new, but it's a throwback to the past, and that's important. Again, how do you bring in that new energy? But it goes back to your past of bringing people together over food and fellowship and commonalities. And it's the perfect example. Again, know where you're from, what got you here, but also not be afraid to evolve it and listen and make changes, but not lose your soul.
There's academic research that I'm become something of an expert from the marketing side, not from the academic side, about something called memorable tourism experiences. And part of that is cultural tourism and cultural heritage tourism. And there's actually lots of evidence so that if you stay true to your cultural heritage and really emphasize and develop that as and use it as a part of your marketing and your approach to how you build your infrastructure and stuff like that, it actually is highly successful in attracting tourism, and it's authentic. How Haywood County can avoid becoming, I love Gatlinburg, I love Pigeon Forge for what they are, but they're very commercialized. And Haywood County is not becoming like that so far, right? And I think that that's a great success of what we're doing.
Yeah.
Here. Yeah.
Absolutely. And again, as you know, in your background, you see champion. As I tell some of my friends that who do live in New York City, you know, you have my skyscrapers, you have your skyscrapers, and I have mine. You know, mine are mountains and
exactly.
It's amazing how many people in marketing are drawn to places like Canton because you know what, they're from manufacturing towns, or they remember going and visit their grandparents, and it's amazing they'll come across a store, a memory, a smell, and it will. They will go back decades to their grandparents' farm, or you know the where their father lived in Ohio, or a coal town in West Virginia, and it ignites this memory and energy, and more importantly, puts a smile on their face. And
it's nice that Haywood County can still do that. It hasn't become this huge commercialized empire. It's become very authentic. I mean, it's very successful now and becoming more so, but it hasn't done that.
Absolutely.
Well, the last thing before we move on from the history, my father back in the day as mayor was tried to do something where he would have the town buy this old motel that had, that was near the festival grounds, and would become an artist, a sponsored artist community. Of course, it didn't go over, but it's something I would like to see happen. Is there any ideas that your dad had but didn't get implemented that you think you would like to pursue?
A lot of them I have accomplished, and I try to give credit where credit is due, and I probably should do a better job at that. We've talked about the co-ops. I think there's a great success for co-ops. The farmers market was a big one. That is a really good question. I think again, having more, I would like to see more people get involved. And encouraging, a downtown business association. But I'm a big believer that that's not the government's job to do. I want to see that organically come from business owners and have them have a stake in it. We'll help any way that we can. But people need skin in the game. And it would really be nice to have a good downtown association. And because that just opens up tremendous other opportunities from business owners. But again, that's something for our business owners to get involved with. But we're only to that point. For years and years, we had no businesses to do an organization. And in 2013, we had about a 20% occupancy rate downtown. We're now up near 90. And I'm very proud of that, watching our downtown come back to life.
Well, we're getting close to the end of the break here. I just wanted to, before we move on to next stuff, we're going to be talking about the things that you've done. But I just wanted to do a shout out that you, last year, I think it was selected as one of 19 leaders across the country to join the New Deal, Development Exceptional American Leaders. And it's a selective national network of state and local elected officials. So I think that's a very proud accomplishment. And I congratulate you on that.
I'm sure there's worse list I'm probably on, but I'm not.
Well, you're not on the list that I'm on. All right, let's take a break and we'll come back. We'll start talking about the flood and the bicycle park.
Wonderful.
I am Joseph Franklin McElroy, host of the new podcast, Gateway to the Smokies. It airs on talkradio.nyc every Tuesday night from 6 p.m. to 7. Every episode is dedicated to memorable experiences in the Great Smoky Mountains National Park and surrounding areas. This show features experts and locals who will expound upon the richness of culture, history, and adventure that awaits you in the Smokies. Tune in every Tuesday from 6 p.m. to 7 on talkradio.nyc.
Are you passionate about the conversation around racism? Hi, I'm Reverend Dr. TLC, host of the Dismantle Racism Show, which airs every Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern on talkradio.nyc. Join me and my amazing guests as we discuss ways to uncover, dismantle, and eradicate racism. That's Thursdays at 11 o'clock a.m. on talkradio.nyc.
Are you a small business trying to navigate the COVID-19 related employment laws? Hello, I'm Eric Sauver, employment law, business law attorney, and host of the new radio show, Employment Law Today. On my show, we'll have guests to discuss the common employment law challenges business owners are facing during these trying times. Tune in on Tuesday evenings from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern Time on talkradio.nyc.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC at www.talkradio.nyc. Now broadcasting 24 hours a day.
Howdy, this is Joseph Franklin McElroy back with Gateway to the Smokies podcast and my guest, Zeb Smathers, the Mayor of Canton, North Carolina. So, Zeb, you talked about, how there was this, things seem to be going downhill, but there's now been a resurgence, and you've led the way for this resurgence in Canton. And, and I've been here the whole time. I came for 30 years, I've been coming every 6 weeks back to Haywood County. I've never, missed more than 2 months at a time and spend a week here, family, other things I've got to do here. I just love it. My business has been elsewhere. And now I've been here quite a lot because I have the business and Maggie. And especially in the last few years, I've been going through Canton, and I just noticed that resurgence. Like, I think you're one of the first towns that started putting out these barrels with flowers in them, right? That was pretty cool because now all the other towns copied it, right?
Yeah.
What are some of the new shops and restaurants and things and breweries that you've brought there? Because it's pretty exciting, I think.
Yeah, and I'll try to name them all because each of them are special. And again, I'm just part of a great team. I've got a great group of elected officials, Democrats and Republicans, and our town employees are absolutely amazing. They don't just believe in their job; they believe they are making a difference. And so I'm just part of a very, very good team. But I mean, the first and is actually, a building that Dad owns, the Imperial. It was the original this Victorian hotel that goes back to the 1890s. It actually was here before the Biltmore House was built in Asheville. And over the course of a decade, Dad was renovating it, piece by piece. Another one of those ideas I'm not sure I ever thought would happen, but it lighted. It was the spark. And now there's a wonderful restaurant there. The Southern Porch has the absolute best bourbon selection in West North Carolina. I'm a bourbon guy, so I'm an expert on that. And
I love an old fashioned, man.
Yeah, exactly. And
I'm putting in a speakeasy. We're going to have some smoky.
Oh, nice, very nice. Well, you just let me know when that happens.
Right.
But it was the first restaurant. It wasn't the Southern Porch then. It was Sid's on Main, and the owners then believed in Canton. And it was it sounds crazy looking back. It was the first real true restaurant Canton had in decades, and especially one of the first to serve alcohol. And it started the Canton comeback. That was our hashtag, because again, to be a small town, you got to have a brewery, you got to have a farmer's market, and you have to have a hashtag. And ours was the Canton comeback, because that's exactly what it was. America loves a comeback story, and that's what we did and still doing. But we have places like the Southern Porch. We have J. Rose, great Philly cheesesteak, hamburgers. You got to have a hamburger place.
Right.
We have the Pigeon River Mercantile. These the Papertown Crafts. I mean, all of these shops have started up. Papertown Coffee. I would put Papertown Coffee up against any coffee shop in New York City. Now, I'm sure I'll get some comments about that, but this couple could, they are truly artists in the coffee world, and they could have gone anywhere in North Carolina or the United States, and they chose Canton because they were drawn again to a lot of the stuff we talked about, to our comeback story, and and the people, and how we have such a sense of community based around what we are and who we are and what we stand for. And so we have attracted so many businesses like those. And Bear Waters Brewing. Bear Waters has done an amazing job both here in Maggie Valley and in Waynesville. Again, being on the river, we have for years and years, we didn't realize how lucky we were to have the river. Now we have breweries on it. We have people tubing it in the summer. I mean, my sister's house is on the river. And I remember during COVID, people would float down. And of course, being a mayor, I want to know where they were from. It was places, Raleigh, Atlanta, Chicago, floating down the very same river I floated down, but now people are paying good money to float down that river. It is things like that. But again, it's these businesses that are very much part of us. Like I said, the coffee place, it's paper town coffee. We are a paper town.
Well, that's an interesting thing. I mean, because I see a lot of times when you're talking about the town, especially tourism, you say we're not a tourist town, we're a mill town. But yet you got all these things and kind of starting to have tourists come there.
Yeah, because we're different. Nothing against any other cities or towns in West North Carolina, but a lot of them are somewhat indistinguishable in tourism. And here we stand out. We're a paper mill town. So I think, again, when you're different, when you have something else to sell and your story's a little bit different, people are drawn to that because it is different. And especially, once again, people like coming to a place, what you see is what you get. And I'm not saying we're not perfect and have flaws, but I promise you the people of Canton, what you see is what you get. And there's a joy in that. There really is.
You know, being a mill town, everybody probably knows, and we can't ignore it. But back in the day, it used to smell real bad all the time. And people would tell me who are Canton would say, well, that's the smell of money. Right now, I notice it's cleaned up a lot, but occasionally there's a little bit. How bad is it? How often is the odor there? And is it getting even better than that? Well, I mean, it wasn't bad when I was there.
No, I can't say enough about Evergreen Packaging and what they've been able to do with environmental. I worked, one of my first projects as an alderman was helping one of the boilers switch from coal over to natural gas. They've done such a great job. And like anyone else, we have a long way to go. But I remember when I was younger, going back, and again, we have flaws. The river used to be covered with foam. There used to be soot on the cars. The odor was every day. And actually looking back, how no one stepped up early decades ago and said, this is wrong. But now, you know, you couldn't fish below the mill. Now you can fish below the mill. It's things like that. But we're working with Evergreen on a lot of different projects because we don't want to stop. We want to keep getting better. And again, I think if there's a breakdown, there's a problem with the mill, that you'll catch an odor every once in a while, but it's not stopping us from growing. And
it wasn't even the one day I happened to catch a whiff of it. It was not bad. It wasn't like, you know, sulfur from hell coming and going in your sinuses like it used to be. It was like barely. Oh, I smell that. Okay, yeah, that's. But that was, you know, I was there several times, and there was only one time that there was any smell. So, you know, it's not. I don't think it's a problem with the mill towns. It's been your technology work with them has been highly successful. Mm-hmm. So, but you've had some problems recently, right? Which has been a sort of a big story. You've had a couple floods, right? And had some, like Bearwater got destroyed and a couple other things. How was that for you, and how have you been recovering from that?
In August, I think it was 16th, 17th of last year, out of nowhere, without any warning, we knew we were going to get a lot of rain. About 3:30 that afternoon, Canton and Haywood County was hit with a tremendous flood event from the remnants of Tropical Storm Fred. 6 lives were lost, 300 homes. Our downtown businesses by the river were completely flooded. You're talking about 20 feet of water. Going back to Dad, in 2004, we had floods in 2004 from 2 hurricanes back to back. They said they were 500-year floods. We made it 17 years. Luckily, I was able to lean on Dad for a lot of emergency management. You know, a lot of lives were saved. Common citizens jumped in the water. Again, this was a flash flood, and an hour and a half, it came out of nowhere. At one point, I had to jump in, getting people out of the water, but so many others did. And if not, the death toll would have been possibly into the hundreds, especially if it was later in the day and schools were out. Most of our bridges were knocked out. And it was such an event, you just cannot explain the intensity of the water. The level of water was similar to 2004, but there were places that got flooded in 2004 that are no longer standing. You can call it global warming, you can call it climate change, whatever. But I think a lot of us realize that the intensity of these storms and what we're seeing across the United States, we need to have discussions. We should be having discussions, because how can I build back a town? How can I have manufacturing when on any given summer it's going to be knocked down? In a mountain town, we're talking about major flooding that you'd expect in the coast in a small mountain town, but they come up from the Gulf. These hurricanes come straight up from the Gulf, a lot of energy, and they dump on us. And so again, out of nowhere, and this was in August, my sister lost her home, at least the bottom part of her home. I say this just to make a point. On August 2nd, my sister tragically lost her husband.
Oh, I'm sorry about that.
2 weeks later, she loses her home. And then obviously all the chaos. And I say that because, as mayor and watching your little sister go through that, there's not words. But myself, but especially people who did lose, those 6 families that lost people, the people of Haywood County, to dig deep, and with the benefit of everybody from politicians to prayers across the United States. I mean, we had people and supplies being sent to us, from Hawaii.
Motels and Maggie were putting
Motels and Maggie, everybody coming together in these moments of tragedy. And I've said time and time again, it is tragic that it takes tragedies to bring us together and bring out the best in people. But you watch people that have lost everything find a way, and even today, to recover. And I don't care if you're a mayor, I don't care where you are, when you hear these stories of recovery, and they happen every single day, and people coming together, especially in these times, it gives you that push to keep going. So when people ask me, Zeb, hey, you've been through a lot, how are you doing? You keep going. That's what we do in the mountains. I think that's what
you've done an amazing job. Lots of the infrastructure is back up. Bearwater Brewing's back up. Maggie has a version of one of the outlets of Bearwater, and for a while it was the main one, and now the main one's back open up in Canton. And you did an amazing job. What is the I don't want to get too much into climate change and discussing that. We could go on for an hour about the solutions to the world. What specifically can Canton do to help alleviate the future things? And I don't want to get into a long discussion about this. We don't have a lot of time, but do you have any quick things to reassure people that we're taking action to make it less dangerous?
Yeah, our obligation is, no matter what we do, rebuilding back, moving things, we have to ask the question, what can we do to help mitigate future storms? Again, in 2004, we were told, well, it'll be another 500 years before this happened. We made it 17. And so everything we do as we build back, we have to see, whether on a large scale or a small scale, what we can do. And it's not easy just tearing everything down. Again, we have to fight for our soul. And much like COVID, how do we balance safety without sacrificing, our soul? And as we rebuild, some things, whether it be historic theaters or armories or stadiums, they're going back. But in small ways, we're looking at what can we do to mitigate future damages, but also where are we building homes? Where are we building businesses? And that's not just in the floodplains. That's on mountaintops. Like you said in Maggie, all that increases water flow. So having those discussions calmly about what we can do, we shouldn't be doing anything unless we understand the world we live in, whether we like it or not, or understand everything. It's a reality. And I think part of leadership is not leading in a world that we wish that there was. We have to lead in the world that is and find those solutions.
That's a great answer. So we're going to take a break, and then we'll come back and finish up talking about Chestnut Mountain Park. All right. I think everybody's gonna be excited by that.
Hey everybody, it's Tommy D, the nonprofit sector connector, coming at you from my attic. Each week here on talkradio.nyc, I host a program, Philanthropy in Focus. Nonprofits impact us each and every day, and it's my focus to help them amplify their message and tell their story. Listen each week at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time until 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on talkradio.nyc.
In a post-COVID world, you may have many unanswered questions regarding your health. Are you looking to live a healthier lifestyle? Do you have a desire to learn more about mental health and enhance your quality of life? Or do you just want to participate in self-understanding and awareness? I'm Frank R. Harrison, host of Frank About Health, and each Thursday, I will tackle these questions and work to enlighten you. Tune in every Thursday at 5 p.m. on talkradio.nyc, and I will be Frank About Health to advocate for all of us.
Calling all pet lovers.
Pet Avengers, assemble!
On the Professionals and Animal Lovers show, we believe the bond between animal lovers is incredibly strong. It mirrors that bond between pets and their owners. Through this program, we come together to learn, educate, and advocate.
Join us live every Wednesday at 2 p.m. at talkradio.nyc.
You're
listening to Talk Radio NYC at www.talkradio.nyc. Now broadcasting 24 hours a day.
Howdy, this is Joseph Franklin McElroy back with the Gateway to the Smokies podcast, and my guest Zeb Smathers, the mayor of Canton, North Carolina. So you had these tragedies. You also had an economic resurgence, but somehow you also were able to raise $600,000, maybe more, to acquire 450 acres of land, and you built a state-of-the-art park outside of Canton. It's called Chestnut Mountain Park. Can you tell us about that park?
Yeah, absolutely. About 2 years ago now, I received a phone call from Honey Muter. She is the executive director of the Southern Appalachian Conservancy. And what this group does is throughout the mountains, they purchase and help preserve mountain land, which is so important. As much as we love economic development and manufacturing, we cannot just give away or develop every piece of one of God's greatest treasures. And so she says, I have this idea, and there's 450 acres located Chestnut Mountain right outside the city limits. Back in the early 1990s, there was plans to make it a NASCAR track. Those fell through. There has been a lot of crazy ideas through the years. There's been talk of everything from, meeting locations and camping to rock quarries. And so with the help of, public and private partnerships, Southern Appalachian was able to purchase that property, and we'll hand the keys over in April at our grand opening. And it is a 450 acre, absolutely amazing, beautiful land for outdoor recreation. And a major part of it is going to be mountain biking. A well-known mountain biker from Asheville has raised over about $250,000 to open something at Burn Park. It's his personal park open to the public. And again, it's the perfect example. It's something that's going to bring in new people, new ideas, economic growth, but it doesn't change who we are. It's use of the mountains. It's low impact. It preserves this land and the beauty. And it's just that perfect situation. And it sits on the Buncombe County, where Asheville is located, and the Haywood County line. And I love that the show's called Gateway to the Smokies. One of my favorite quotes is from Walt Disney, that if you want to control the experience, control the entrance. Yeah. And Haywood County in Canton, we're the Gateway to the Smokies. If you come west,
always have been, yes.
We come west of Asheville, whether it's Waynesville, Maggie Valley, Western Carolina University, Cherokee, Murphy, any of those places, you have to pass through Canton, either through the interstate or on Old Asheville Highway, where this park is located. And to put this park at the entrance of the Smokies, it speaks volumes about what we are, what we intend to be. And again, the economic growth. I know very little about mountain biking.
It could be huge.
That is not my field.
Yeah,
I do know something about economic impact and, going for a hike and then wanting to get a beer afterwards, or getting a t-shirt, or going to eat. And if we can open our arms up to outdoor recreation, and then once they get to Canton, get to the Maggie Valley, get them the Cherokee, tell our story. I think that's part of the experience that we want to provide. And it goes back to flood recovery. As we build back Canton, in our rec park, we are raising money. We want to build an absolute fantastic and large all abilities playground, because again, when you come back from a flood, people are going to ask you, what are you focusing on? If we can do something in our rec park that puts smiles on children's faces and families' faces, no matter what they've been through in life, especially if they're suffering from special needs, especially in these times where kids and families, we need to smile again. We need to get back, and we don't want COVID to take more from us than it already has. And it's taken so many lives. And put that at our forefront to say this.
Make it so everybody can enjoy it. I agree with you. One of the things exciting to me is I've read that there's something called a Tyke bike trail that's going to be in this new, I have 3.5-year-olds, so they're riding their little bikes now.
Good.
What is that going to be?
Well, hopefully a place like my 2-year-old, you can turn loose safely and let them get some energy out before they come home.
So mountain biking for tots.
Yes, come on. It's BYOB, bring your own bike. So, but again, I mean, we see that's what's in many parts of Western North Carolina. I mean, it's retirees. It's people moving here from different places. In Eastern Haywood, we're focusing on young families. We want young families. Our school system, Haywood County Schools, is ranked number 11th in North Carolina. We love our sports. We love our schools. I mean, we can provide the total package. But again, we love having people come visit us and move here. But it's important to us that we don't lose who we are. And if we lean into that, I think we can have the best of both worlds, and people will be drawn to us because of our past, present, and also our future.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, if you celebrate your good heritage, if you live it and live the good heritage, then your heritage, the people coming in adopt it instead of you adopting theirs, right? So, that's why we celebrate dance and music and fishing and all these things at the Metal Arc, because it's about promoting a positive experience of mountain culture. So these, a little bit more details. I just want, for the viewers, do you know how long these biking trails are going to be?
How long?
Yeah. Do they have any measurements? How many miles?
It depends. I mean, long term, the money you spoke of, we received about $750,000 of grant money from the state, which will allow us to really complete the second phase. And those are going to be the larger trails, the trails to the top, the outdoor classrooms. I think I don't know the exact length, but the burn park, these are the jumps. These are the barrels and all.
The fancy stuff, right?
Yeah, the fancy, the fancy stuff out there. So
this could be a world-class biking facility, right?
Oh yeah, this is not something that was very important to myself and our elected officials, that if we're going to do this, we're going to do it the right way. And so this is state-of-the-art, done by amazing contractors that have just really, used the land. I mean, the mountains themselves create trails and they create jumps. So this is not, this is, again, what you see is what you get. And these are some great mountain bike trails.
All right. Well, cool. Then, we're going to be closing up here. I want you to, anything else you want to tell our viewers about Canton, and then any shout outs you want to give and where they can find out more information?
No, I mean, I think obviously Google any of these things, our website, explore West North Carolina. Our people love to tell our stories. That's something that is just, ingrained in us. And, again, we're so much surrounded by food and fellowship. But again, I'll go back to a little bit higher. And I saw this during the floods, and I saw this working with Democrats and Republicans. And this is a message I say, I don't mean this to be political, is, again, we have to make, we have the decision each day as people to what type of life are we going to live, what type of decisions we're going to make, what are we going to demand from our leaders. And we don't have to settle for the toxicity and the division that surround us. Once you see what I was able to witness and others in Haywood County during the floods, and it happens every time there's a disaster in this country, we don't have to go back to where the way things were of division and just, people tearing each other down. We can do better, but you have to demand it, because once you see it, it exists. You have to lean into it, and it can accomplish. And so again, I want that to be one of the legacies from the floods, not the death toll, not the destruction, but maybe, just maybe, we started the walk towards less division and more cooperation and doing things for the common good, because it does exist. And I'm just glad to be part of it with our employees and our elected officials and everyday citizens trying to make Haywood County the best place it can be.
Well, I congratulate you on what you've done so far. And I thank you for being on this show. It's been a pleasure talking to you, and you're doing exciting things. I love the biking mountain, because I think that's going to be a huge tourism thing for the Haywood County, and of course, me being in tourism, it's selfishly meeting my personal goals, but I also think it's great for the community.
Well, Justin, thank you so much. It's been a privilege being part of you. I hope one of my friends in New York City heard my Southern accent today.
I hope so too. Let me know if you did.
I will.
So this has been the Gateway to the Smokies podcast. You can find out more about this podcast by going to smokiesadventure.com, and there's a link to all the previous podcasts that you can go and peruse. This is also done streamed live on talkradio.nyc. And that happens every week on Tuesdays from 6 to 7. This is a wonderful network. I encourage you to investigate other shows on this network because they're all live podcasts. So you get a very dynamic experience listening to things that range from self-help to New York City, to other travel shows, to pets, and it's almost like a community radio just done in the big city. And I would encourage you to come look at it. I actually have another podcast on this network called Wise Content Creates Wealth, which is about marketing and content marketing, SEO, and artificial intelligence and the coming augmentation of human creativity with AI, and how that's necessary for the future of marketing. So I hope you will come and listen to that. And that's on Fridays from noon until 1. And I appreciate you being here today and listening to this wonderful program that we had. And I'll see you next week, same time.